Well, first, why does it make you feel so bad that they're here?
Because I know that we grew up a different way.
You grew up a different way?
Yes.
What way do you think I espouse?
Very conservative, very.
Does that make me like
right-wing.
a bad person? Like,
When you go against my rights and my beliefs, yes, I think so. But
I'm
to
a bad person.
to my question,
okay.
Yeah.
About gun violence? What in
Yes.
particular?
like the shootings that are going on in America, that
Yeah.
thousands of kids are dying.
Well, thousands of kids aren't dying every year, but a lot of kids are dying. You're right.
It's actually 30,000 kids die a year due to gun
No,
violence.
30,000
Yes.
kids do not die. 30,000 total people die due to gun violence, 2/3 of which are suicide, and the majority are urban violence. You guys can fact check me on this at any time, by the way. 30,000 kids do not die of gun violence a year. So in order to be consistent, because you care about gun violence,
Yes, I do.
should we take all the pistols away so that no gang violence can happen in Kansas City, Chicago, Houston, etc.?
Yeah.
So all pistols should be taken? Okay.
think
So Americans should not have any guns at all.
I don't think so. No.
Do you agree?
I do agree.
So no guns at all. So we have about 380 million guns in this country. How do you suggest getting them?
I think we should just do background checks on everyone.
No, we already own them, right? So how do we take the guns away?
I mean, I don't think there's any real physical way we can take away the
Right.
guns, but how can we prevent this in the future?
Right, but that's important. Since we can't get rid of the 380 million guns, what are we going to do?
There has to be some form of incentive to get people to give up their guns in order
So
for that to
like
happen.
buybacks and
Yes.
confiscation?
Yes.
Yeah. Got it. So you would get rid of the Second Amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Because children are dying.
Got it. So 30,000 people.
Children are dying.
Got it. 30,000 people die of gun violence a year, right? 30,000. 55,000 people die from auto fatalities every year. Should we get rid of cars?
Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, it is. No, you said 30,000. That's a lot of people, but a lot more people die because of cars, so we should get rid of them, right?
I don't think so. That's different.
No, it's not different. It's more people. We care about people, right? So we should try to make America safer, get rid of liberty, so cars got to go. Yeah?
So.
Well,
you're-
but I thought we'll save lives. We'll save 55,000 lives a year.
All right, welcome back to the channel, pointing out politics. In this video, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to point out something here and give you the reason why Tyler Robinson shot and killed Charlie Kirk. I know there's a lot of confusion or a lot of people saying different things, and it's become a side issue. You have one side trying to blame the other side for being the catalyst as to what happened. And it's kind of weird and sick in a way how folks are so adamant about demonizing the other party. Some of it is justified, in a sense, to an extent. But what I've seen on social media, I mean, it just turns my stomach because there is no sympathy, empathy, understanding, desire to understand from some people on social media. It's just a rapid movement to try to point a finger. And ultimately what it comes down to is an individual wanting to prove themselves right, to prove a point. Now there is, and I'm going to get into it in this video, the reason is pretty clear, at least in my eyes. But a lot of folks would allow the water to be muddy. In fact, want it that way, again, to promote their own personal belief agenda and things to that extent. So what I want to do is pick this apart and go line by line so it's clear exactly why this kid did what he did. Tyler Robinson, and he's painted in a bunch of different ways. Some folks paint him as a hero. Some folks paint him as the evil villain. Ultimately, what it comes down to is this kid was sick. He was infected. He was literally infected with a disease that is running rampant throughout this country. So let's get into it. Let's break this thing down line by line. First and foremost, why Charlie Kirk? What did he have against Charlie Kirk personally? Why did he want Charlie Kirk dead or thought he needed to die? Well, there's a couple different reasons, but they all tie into one. he viewed Charlie Kirk as a fascist or a proponent of fascism, right? And there was a close association between Charlie Kirk, and Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk and MAGA, Charlie Kirk and fascism. Now, I want to make it clear, it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be real. It just has to be believed. The person responsible just has to believe what they're thinking. It doesn't have to be true. So if you're arguing about whether or not it's true, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy, and for lack of a better way to put it, you're becoming overly emotional about something that doesn't even matter. It does not have to be true. And then the fact that Charlie Kirk was younger in age. Why is that important? Because the older somebody becomes, the younger person can look at him as a dinosaur, less relevant, if not irrelevant. But when someone's younger and they're closer to a young person's age, now they're viewed more so as a traitor. It's even worse because if you're closer to my age and you're younger, how could you believe what you believe? And then if you take that and it's amplified by the fact that Charlie Kirk built a significant audience, people listened to him. If you look at social media, you'll see a lot of folks talking about how Charlie Kirk was racist, and they'll paint a picture of him being aggressively evil, for lack of a better way to put it. And they'll take little clips and they'll take them out of context and present that as their evidence. As an aside, I had a brief interaction on Facebook with someone. She posted about Charlie Kirk being racist and how he was harming black people. And it was a comment about DEI. And she said that Charlie Kirk said that if he got on an airplane and he saw a black pilot, he would worry about whether or not that pilot was qualified. It was taken out of context. And it was a meme, actually. This was a meme, a still photo with these words on it. So I couldn't resist the temptation. I felt the need to say something. I tried my best to just stay above the fray, stay out of it, because it is emotional and it drains you. But I said something in the comments. And what I said in the comment section was, why would you post a meme when there is video footage available of him saying exactly what he said? Now, you could look at that comment and you could view it as an attack. You could say, oh, he's accusing me of not having the evidence. If you viewed it that way, it's because you know that's the case. Or you could say, hey, look, I want to learn more. I want to see more. Show me the video so I can better understand. That would be frustrating to whoever posted that comment because they can't show you the video without understanding that it would be that what they posted was out of context, and they know that, right? So her response, this was a black female, her response was, I had the right to post whatever I want to post on my Facebook page, and I don't have to explain myself to anyone. Okay, you're right. So my response to that was, okay. And that was that. I left it alone. Okay. But I just wanted everyone else, those who were open enough and smart enough to see what happened in that exchange, to see that what you're looking at is a person who has their own personal agenda, and they don't mind posting things out of context in order to try to move opinion to where they're at, right? So, Tyler Robinson. Let's talk about Tyler Robinson, a little bit about what it looked like he was as a person, but more so why he did what he did. What moved him to that point? What motivated him to do the things that he did? So why did Tyler Robinson shoot and kill Charlie Kirk? He believed that Charlie Kirk was a fascist in that he was a supporter or a proponent of fascism. In the definition, it says that a fascist is a far-right authoritarian, ultranationalist political ideology, and fascism is characterized by. Okay, characterized by. Let's go through this definition. One thing I want to point out, and this is coming straight from Wikipedia, all right? One thing I want to point out is that if you're observant like I am, you'll notice that over time definitions change slightly, but they change. And the reason is because someone is attempting to modify definitions to fit the times, certain circumstance. Often it leans to the left. If you go in and you look at, fascism, right, and how it is described as now, people are using that to try to describe a lot of figures that are on the right side of the political aisle. And then the definitions of socialism, stuff like that. You'll look and see that, like, take the Soviet Union, United Soviet Socialist Republic. They'll even try to say that is not. They weren't really socialist. It's a weird thing that happens, and then you'll get folks saying that they'll change the words to like democratic socialist and things of that nature. But what I want to do is just go through the definition that I found for a fascist and show you why this kid believed that Charlie Kirk was a fascist and how I believe he was infected with that disease. Let's take a look at the first part of that definition of fascism that I found. The first characterization of a fascist is dictatorial leadership. Dictatorial leadership. Well, what would lead one to think that we're living in a fascist state? The world is becoming more fascist, and we have a dictator as a leader, i.e. Donald Trump. Well, if you look around in the media, they made a concerted effort to paint Donald Trump as a dictator. And where they could not prove that he was a quote-unquote dictator, they painted him as having dictator or dictatorship leanings, as wanting to be a dictator, as putting things in place to become a dictator.
Because Donald Trump believes that he should be the ruler, the dictator of the United States of America. He actually is looking to change the Constitution. When Donald Trump jokes about 12 more years, as you'll see that in my upcoming podcast called Mea Culpa, I talk about that. He's not joking. Donald Trump doesn't have a sense of humor.
Trump seems to be beginning his big dictator week. This morning he said that a lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator after mocking people for essentially just wanting to protect their freedom.
President Putin was very, very strong.
He even called me brilliant. Isn't that nice?
Putin has much better leadership qualities than Obama. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. Kim Jong-un, he really has been very open, I think very honorable. He's the boss. It's incredible. He wiped out the uncle. He wiped out this one, that one. And then we fell in love. I mean, I like the Saudis. They're very nice. I make a lot of money with them. They buy all sorts of my stuff. All kinds of toys from Trump. They pay me millions and hundreds of millions. And I get along great with all of them. They buy apartments from me. They spend 40 million, 50 million. We are with Saudi Arabia. We're staying with Saudi Arabia.
We've become very good friends.
NATO is obsolete. The European Union is a foe. The European Union was set up to take advantage of the United States. We're not negotiating with Canada right now. Germany is a disgrace.
Really American PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Charlie Kirk supported Donald Trump. Charlie Kirk was MAGA. Donald Trump and MAGA are fascists, which makes Charlie Kirk a proponent of fascism. This is the thought process. And if you look at the media, you can see how he arrived at that conclusion.
How he can change the Constitution for a third term and then a fourth term, like what he said to President Xi and like he said to so many other people. It's why he admires the.
Another characterization of fascism is a single party state or one party state. Oddly enough, if you look at the presidency of Joe Biden, the Democrats were running things. They were exercising power as if it was a one-party state. And the Republicans had a really hard time, trying to keep the Democrats in check. I remember personally trying to post on social media and having my posts either blocked, either receiving some type of threat. And this is not like a highly super opinionated post, but they were shutting down that voice, right? And that was coming straight from the White House. That was a single party exercising dominance over speech. But somehow they tend to believe that Republicans have created a single party state. And then you have the media and social media amplifying this. So it's not hard to understand how a young man who is impressionable, and this is what's interesting, is because you can't say he wasn't intelligent. But I've looked at video footage of the young man and the way he speaks, the way he looks. You can tell that there's something a little bit off or different.
Congratulations, you have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship is approximately $32,000. This scholarship is available for 4 years or 8 semesters.
Almost as if he's on the spectrum, like he's on the autism spectrum. If you really pay attention, you can see that. But in any case, whether that's the case or not, that's not the point I'm trying to make. You can understand how the media influences, social or otherwise, infected this young man to the degree that he believed that next component, characterization of fascism, was in place. And because Charlie Kirk was a conservative, by mere connection, he is a proponent of fascism. Now let's talk about forcible suppression of the opposition, and this is kind of, runs along the same vein. But a lot of young people feel as though the opposition is being forcibly suppressed, which is, again, odd, because I felt that way during the last 4 years before Donald Trump was reelected, by the shadow banning. Even this YouTube channel was shadow banned because my opinions weren't part of the mainstream. And if you look back, I'm not going to go into it here, but if you look back over the history of what was going on at that time and who was running things, even on YouTube, you'll kind of understand why I came to that conclusion, why I felt that way, right? It was through personal experience. But again, the media, social media, has been pushing this mindset that there's suppression of the opposition. And most of the way that they're doing that is by saying that Republicans are suppressing people's right to vote.
And we also know that the Republicans are going to try to pass voter suppression legislation. There's something called the SAVE Act, which is absurdly requires somebody to vote to have their birth certificate, and the name on the birth certificate has to match the
cuts out women.
Name.
I won't be able to vote.
If you change your name when you got married,
we wouldn't be able.
So that hopefully that won't pass, because that is absurd. Nobody should support that.
18 states this year that restrict access to Americans' constitutional right to vote. So the freedom.
Republicans know that they didn't suppress enough of the vote in 2020. If they had suppressed enough of the vote in November, Trump would be president right now instead of Joe Biden. So Republicans have launched a nationwide voter suppression effort. It's already underway with 250.
Never before has an electoral defeat at the presidential level ushered in a state by state campaign to engineer the electorate based on a lie about election fraud.
When you hear a Republican politician use the term election integrity, it almost always means, how can we get fewer Democrats to vote?
So, since Charlie Kirk is conservative, leans Republican, has an association with Donald Trump, has an association with MAGA, he is a proponent of fascism. This is how this young man is thinking. So there's another characterization, another check mark in his mind to prove that Charlie Kirk is a fascist. Another thing that characterizes fascism is strong regimentation of society and the economy. That's a really open point, because it's subject to interpretation. But what the media did was they kept driving home that Donald Trump and the Republicans were pushing for this regimentation of society and the economy by labeling Trump's economic policies and Trump's immigration policies as fascist. And then they hammered it home. They pounded it and pounded and pounded. The result, a young, impressionable man like Tyler Robinson could come to the conclusion that Trump is a fascist and MAGA is fascist. And Charlie Kirk, through his association with this person and this organization or this group of people, is a fascist. Another thing that fascism is characterized by, according to this definition, is a belief in natural social hierarchy. How do you espouse or establish that somebody has a belief in its natural social hierarchy? You call them a racist.
Jamil Hill went on a Twitter rant Monday night, writing, among other things, Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists.
The president came under some criticism over the weekend based on his initial response to all of that violence and racism that you just heard Kayla talking about in Charlottesville. The president was stepping out and saying that ultimately there was blame to be placed on both sides.
I am tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel away and why you can't make me doubt who I am? Is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat.
And so how do President Trump's statements about these groups affect the FBI's ability to address this threat?
The FBI is fighting a fire of racist violence, and with words like that, the president is using a fire hose to spray gasoline on that fire.
Good to see you both, David. I want to start with you. Talk to me. I mean, this is not the first time that Donald Trump has fraternized someone with the likes of Fuentes, and yet it can absolutely never become normalized.
And then you pound that home, and you do everything you possibly can to try to demonstrate that this person is a racist. Well, how is that effective? Because if you have a natural social hierarchy, if you're looking for that somebody believes that, well, you say they're a racist and they believe in white supremacy, and they believe that white people are naturally higher, get it, hierarchy, higher than black people and other people. And if you can program that into someone's mind, you get effect across the spectrum. Really, you have black people who buy into this, and the result of which is the type of posts that I see on social media, and the lack of sympathy, the lack of empathy, the downright hate. That's like it's like we're getting even. It's like a tit for tat thing, and you see that that's what the effect is on people who are not white. And then you have the people who are white who feel like it's their duty to stop this because their hearts are bleeding, and they don't want to be associated with that. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter if it's real. It just matters if they believe that. So the result of that was Tyler Robinson became a white knight. He saw himself as the necessary savior. He felt the need to stop this, to stop fascism, to save America. It's not that he hated America. That's the crazy part about it. In his mind, he loves his country. And it was an American thing to do to stop these fascists from taking over the country. Now, here's this last part. I'm going to put it all together. It talks about fascism being characterized by this. It prioritizes the nation's interests over individual ones, rejecting democracy and liberalism in favor of a system that often involves militarism, imperialism, and a cult of personality around an infallible leader. So if you can paint Trump as anything other than a person who believes in democracy, paint him as a dictator, and then you look and you see how they, anytime, like say the National Guard is mentioned, that's the military, right? So militarism, he's sending in the National Guard. This is militarism. And then they use terms like going to war against the American people, not going in to help the police or help with crime or help bring order, but it's always characterized as going to war. So in his mind, Donald Trump is waging war on the American people.
Trump signed an executive order today to ensure that every state's National Guard is trained to, quote, quell civil disturbances, which to many sounds like just protests. Over the weekend, he said he was going to send the military into Chicago, and then the Pentagon confirmed that he's been planning to do this for months and that they could be sending active duty troops to the city in addition to the National Guard. You had Chicago's mayor echoing the sentiments of many Chicagoans, saying that there will be an uprising in Chicago against this tyranny. All while, if you look back, Ben Franklin once found himself in a situation similar to ours, and he said, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." Trump also threatened to send the military into Maryland because the governor criticized him on TV. He also then threatened to revoke funding to fix their bridge. Also, not long after, Trump said that the news media should be censored by stripping their broadcast licenses because they're reporting negatively on him. Trump also appears to be trying to take away your free speech by signing an illegal executive order that's trying to make burning the flag a crime with a 1-year jail sentence. Right, and that is, burning the flag is protected speech. The whole point of the First Amendment is to protect radical political advocacy. It really seems like Team Trump would have jailed Thomas Jefferson, who, for example, wrote that the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Right? And protecting statements like that are the entire point of the First Amendment. Also, you had Trump threatening to investigate Chris Christie because he was being critical of him on Sunday shows. And all of this, it comes after the Trump Justice Department rated John Bolton one of Trump's biggest critics. And I know that it feels like very dark times for many in America, but I do want to note that you still have the rights you need to protect and save yourselves. But hey, for now, while you still can, follow to stay in the loop.
Take imperialism or a nationalist view. America first. Make America great again. So now you have people who've been, for the better part of their lives, these young folks, they've been immersed in this globalism mindset. They've been, if you look back at what's going on around the world, there was an active attempt, if not an ongoing attempt, to equalize the world, make everybody the same. That's what globalism really, really comes down to. So if you have, and I'm sure you've heard the term first world, third world, these different countries, second world, these worlds are not the same. In other words, these economic levels are not the same. So you had America, first world country, advanced, economically superior. And then you have these third world countries who are suffering, right? It's so bad. It doesn't matter why, right? And we could go into that because that's a deep conversation, and it goes both ways. The pendulum swings. It goes both ways. America has done some things to keep third world countries third world, and people in these third world countries, leadership, corrupt leadership, has done many things to keep these countries third world. But that's not this conversation. The only thing that matters is that that is observable. So the only way to bring balance here is to elevate the third world countries, bring them up. And then what do you have to do? You have to take America down a notch. Because you can't bring everybody up to where America is. That's not even in the thought process. The thought process is America must be reduced. America must become second and third. But by no means can America be first. That's wrong. So when you say America first, you're a bad person. You are a proponent of fascism through his associations with MAGA and Make America Great Again and Donald Trump. So now he's associated with militarism. He's associated with imperialism, right? And that last component, that it talks about a cult of personality around an infallible leader. So Donald Trump is painted as an infallible leader, and Charlie Kirk promotes, supports, agrees with Donald Trump, then he is part of that cult of personality. His supporters are part of that cult of personality. Thereby, by mere association, Charlie Kirk is a fascist or a proponent of fascism. This is the thought process. So you have all of these things coming together, and the media has made a concerted effort to make this happen, to paint Donald Trump that way, to paint MAGA that way, to paint Americans who feel that way, to paint the Republican Party that way. And because Charlie Kirk was in agreement with or associated with that, he's guilty by association. He is a fascist. And then he's guilty by his beliefs or whatever he espouses. And I'm going to say this as a side note. I think this is what's most important, or very important. It's this opposition thing, to suppress or silence the opposition. Let's dive into that a little bit more for clarification. If you look at the speeches and the conversations that Charlie Kirk had, more or less the conversations, you can call them debates, you can call them back and forth, all that proved me wrong. If you look at that, you'll see that he gives other people the opportunity to speak, and they make their points, and he makes his points. More often than not, his points are better substantiated, right? But that's not suppressing the opposition. That's having a conversation. But people like this young man, they see not agreeing or having an opposing viewpoint as suppression. It's the craziest thing, but it's not that you're preventing me from speaking. It's the fact that you're speaking too. In their mind, they should be the only one speaking, or there should be nothing said, one of the two. But if you open your mouth and you say something that they don't agree with, and they try to shout you down, and you can defend your position, somehow they don't view it as a defense, but as active suppression of their viewpoints. Take Twitter, for instance, before Elon Musk bought Twitter. As long as they were able to say whatever they wanted to say and were not met with any opposition, they were fine. Everything was great, hunky-dory. But the minute it became a platform where somebody can put out an opposing idea, not silence you, but just put out an opposing idea. Somehow they painted the picture, and the media helped with this big time, that opposition was suppression. And now you take a young man who's impressionable, already leaning in a certain direction, and you can see how he can come to the conclusion. So you take everything that we went over in this video. We covered every base of fascism, exactly how this young man came to that conclusion and decided that it was a good idea to shoot and kill Charlie Kirk. We went through the definition line by line. Now, you may say, it's not true. It's fake. It doesn't line up. But that doesn't matter. It does not matter. It doesn't matter if it's real. It doesn't matter if it's true. It only matters what he believed.